So I think it's a reverse problem which you are facing. Usually people face a problem कि job इतनी मिल ही नहीं रही है, इधर क्या reject हो गया, दूसरी जगह क्या reject हो गया, and then you are like कि यहाँ पे companies है जो हाँ बोल रही है, but then you have a problem कि किसको ना बोलना है, किसको हाँ बोलना है. So I think that's a good problem to have in life.
Problem of plenty is a good problem to have in life, absolutely.
Hi everyone, welcome to the series Conversation with Kushal once again. Today we have with us an extraordinary person who's a principal at Boston Consulting Group, and he has secured single digit ranks in all the 3 levels of CA exams. All India rank 6, then All India rank 2, and satisfaction nahi hua tha, therefore he wanted All India rank 1, which he got in the finals examination. It's an honor for me to welcome Sanjay on the show. Thank you so much, Sanjay. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to host you today.
Thanks a lot, Kushal, for the exciting introduction. Very, very happy to be on the show and looking forward to talking to you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. So, I am sure, your story is going to be extremely inspiring given the ranks, given the profile you have. Every chartered accountant would want to have a profile like yours and get a dream job like you as well. So, could you just tell us about your, entire CA journey? How did you, just go through CA, and, what was that entire journey like?
Sure. Let me start, a bit before CAs.
Sure.
So till 10th standard, I think I wanted to become a cricketer. So all I used to do was play cricket when I was in school, go back home, eat, have my lunch, and go back to club and play cricket again, right? Yeah. So till 10th, 11th standard, all I wanted was to become a cricketer. It was I think it was before IPL era, and before when I sat down to make a real career decision on what I wanted to do. And when I ended up, selecting CA as one of the course, I was always very interested in finance, how the economies work. I was very good at maths and so on. And that is how I selected, maybe CA is something I want to do, and started preparing for it after 12th onwards. So that is how the journey began. Yeah, see, on the serious note. But I also have a funny story. I have 2 sisters, two elder sisters. One of them is an engineer and the other one is CA. They are like 8 years and 10 years older than me. So when I was a kid, I used to see both of them study, and the one who is engineer used to study a lot more than the one who is a CA. And then I decided that maybe I'll go for CA. इसमें कम पढ़ाई करनी पड़ती है शायद. That is how I selected CA. It's a fun story I often tell.
Right. And then do you regret after getting to know कि बहुत लंबी पढ़ाई करनी पड़ती है इसमें तो?
Yeah, I realized only after I was halfway into it कि ये तो काफी tough course है. So it's not, you should not judge the book by the cover itself. That is when I realized this.
Yeah.
But in terms of CA journey itself, how I started, I gave CPT just after my 12th standard. CPT was the only level where I really wanted rank. That is when I always wanted to have rank. और मैं सोचता था कि एक बार CPT में रैंक आ जाए, ठीक है, फिर I will be a rank holder CA, उसके बाद तो IPCG और फाइनल पास कर लेंगे. So I got 6th rank in CPT. Okay. I started my IPCC coaching, and I was quite casual at my coaching. मैं बहुत खुश था कि 6th rank तो आ गई है. I am a rank holder CA. अब जो भी होता है बहुत बढ़िया है. But then one of the teacher I realized is Bangar sir, text पढ़ाते हैं. He told me, he realized that I am doing this. I am optimizing my life and maybe not putting in full effort. So he is one who told me that you should aim for All India rank 1. I think he would have done that so that I work hard and I don't become like a bit careless in my approach, because I had gotten rank in CPT, but that really helped me. He kept motivating me, and he's the first one who inspired me to set this ambition of getting first rank, right? So he said it to me once, then twice, and then I think 3 or 4 times. And he told it to me so many times that it became my goal, and I started realizing that I have it in me to achieve a All India first rank, and I should prepare for it. If someone is telling me and giving me so much of guidance, I should just aspire for it. So in IPCC, I started aspiring midway in the journey for a rank, or for, a single digit rank. I would say maybe first rank. And then I missed it by, I gave in my all. I prepared very hard. I completed course. I did everything I could. And I missed it by 1 mark. At that time, I thought that it is, oh shit, I have missed it by 1 mark. But when I look back now, I think it is the best thing that has happened to me in my career. Missing that rank by first mark, gave me that extra firepower to put in a lot more effort on everything that I had to do from IPCC onwards. So final ke andar, for the 3 years, All India rank 1 was a goal for, not just for me, all my friends, all my family members, my relatives, they all had this goal set कि अच्छा इसकी first rank के लिए he's preparing for that. And I was very glad I was able to secure it in CA finals.
How did you tackle the pressure? Like बहुत ज़्यादा pressure भी होगा, right? Because a lot of people have expectations from you because you had like ranks previously. How did you tackle that?
Well, it depends. I always believe in one saying which is believe you have received and you shall receive. It's a quote I think from Bible, and there are a lot of books on it which says the power of it includes power of your subconscious mind, manifestations and so on. So for me, I never took pressure. For me, it was already all these people saying that I might get All India rank 1 and me believing I might get it. It actually, I think, helped me manifest it and actually achieve it. So never took it as a pressure. Rather, I just took it as a goal, worked very hard for it, and was lucky, I would say, at the end to get rank 1. Right? I always say this: luck plays a very important role, because the person who got rank 2, 3, 4, 5, in fact rank 50, would have worked as hard as I would have worked, but I had some better days and I approached some problems better than what others would have done, and on any other day they might have done better than me.
So what's the secret of getting single digit ranks? Do you think it's consistency? Do you think it's hard work, dedication? If you were to just give a mantra, what would that be?
Setting an aspirational goal. Yeah. Okay. So set an aspiration to get that rank and do everything possible after that, and you will reach there. Right. At the end, if you reach there or you don't reach there, then the process or the journey is important, right? So when I get my results, even though I have not received, say, a rank, but if I am very happy and with my journey, if I believe I've done everything possible that I could have done to achieve these ranks, I would be satisfied with it. I would sleep well, right? So on the day of result, I should not feel that if I had done something differently, I would have achieved my goal. अगर मेरे को ऐसा नहीं सोचना पड़ रहा है, and I am able to sleep well on the day of my result, I'm happy with it. So set a very aspirational goal, do everything possible in the journey towards that goal, and then leave the results to God.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. I think you should do whatever is in your control and leave the rest, whatever is not in your control altogether. You're not going to be able to focus on that. So I think whatever is under your control, give your best, and automatically Almighty is going to take care of the rest. So that's how I like to put it. And after your CA finals were over, like you got an All India rank 1, I'm sure it would be like the best moment of your life. So this was which year? When did you clear your CA finals?
This was May 2014. I cleared my CA finals. Yeah.
Got it. So after May 2014, how was the atmosphere like for you in terms of campus placements, job hunting? What did you do? What did you do after clearing your CA exams?
It was amazing. I think May 2014 was the attempt where because of general election, the exams were postponed and result was also postponed. So we got results somewhere in, I think, 8th or 9th August. 8th August, I got my IPCC result also on 8th August, by the way. So it was 8th August, life just changed after that. First, I think almost a month, I was busy giving interviews, not for companies or job, but for interviews to all the newspapers, radio stations, TV channels, and so on. It was close to 15th August. I remember I had invitation and I went to a flag hosting ceremony at n number of places. I was very proud to go to my school, to a number of places. I had taken tuitions from my office and so on. So that was what the first month was like. I was also completing my GMCS then. Had an amazing time with my batchmates. it was only in September onwards when I started, I always knew I had to prepare, and I was preparing somewhere mentally for my interviews, the real interviews, jobs, and so on. I knew what I wanted to do. I was preparing for that. And September onwards, I started giving these interviews with different companies, and, really preparing for these interviews that were coming.
Right. And how was that entire interview phase for you? Like the campus placement phase, the off-campus placement phase? If you can share
It was
your experience.
amazing. It was amazing. So, typically for rank holders, there are a lot of off-campus opportunities that keeps coming. So I gave all the interviews, not just for the sake of interview, but for see, it was a learning for me. I wanted to see what all opportunities are available, um, where all can I go and maybe use my caliber. I also wanted to see what all can I do, whether I will find it interesting or not. So I was always taking interviews as a way by which I can learn what the job is about, what does job offer to me in terms of career, and whether it will be something that I find interesting. Right. With this aspiration, I was giving all the interviews that were available. It were different all the FMCG companies, yeah, different consulting companies in the fields of strategy consulting, tax consulting, auditing, and so on. I gave almost 9 or 10 interviews across a number of companies after my CA exam. But I was quite clear on what I wanted to do on in my career in general. Before this, I had some thoughts in my mind, and during the course of this journey, it became very clear on what I really want to set my path on.
Right. Makes sense. And out of these 9-10 companies which you gave interview for, so I'm sure like you would have been selected by all the 9-10 companies, right?
Yeah, I was selected by all the 9-10 companies. I was shortlisted by all.
Wow. And then you had to say no to all of them.
I had to say no to all of them for some. I had to say it was more. So it was always piecemeal, right? I was giving interviews. I was learning what is about the company, what is the offer, and so on. Sometimes during the interactions itself, I was very honest about what I wanted to do and whether it will or will not fulfill that aspiration. And sometimes after the interview, yes, I had to go back and say that I'm looking for some other role.
Right. So I think it's a reverse problem which you are facing. Usually people face a problem कि job इतनी मिल ही नहीं रही है, इधर क्या reject हो गया, दूसरी जगह क्या reject हो गया, and then you are like कि यहाँ पे companies है जो हाँ बोल रही है, but then you have a problem कि किसको ना बोलना है, किसको हाँ बोलना है. So I think that's a good problem to have in life.
Problem of plenty is a good problem to have in life. Absolutely. Yes.
I agree. And then how did you end up getting at BCG then? How was your how was your interview process, and how did you make the shortlist, and how was your entire experience like?
It was amazing. So BCG, what it typically does, it assigns a buddy to all the shortlisted candidates early in the process itself. I had a great buddy who is also a very good friend even now, right? I had a set of buddies, in fact, I would say. And these buddies are people who have experience within BCG for 2 to 3 years. So I was talking to them. They were helping me prepare for the interviews. They were helping me tell what this job is about. What do I expect out of it? What do I need to do in order to crack this interview, given it is one of the toughest interviews to give and crack any job. So I already had a buddy. I was giving a lot of mock interviews with my buddy. I think I gave 3 or 4 mock interviews with her, and after that we went into the real interviews, which is taken by the partners, principals, and MDPs in BCG. It was a 1-day process. We had 4 or people typically had 2 to 4 rounds with partners and MDPs. I also had, I think, 2 or 3 rounds, and it was a 1-day process, but it was in a very relaxed atmosphere. It was again kind of an interaction to know about you, and then a case interview that typically happens in consulting.
Right. And like once you got into BCG, then how did your life change before BCG and after BCG?
It changed completely. I come from the city of Jaipur. It's a tier 2 town. I had done CA prepares you in a way. It also gives you an exposure in form of articleship for 3 years, where I was fortunate enough to do for multiple national banks, multiple listed companies, internal audits, statutory audits, limited reviews, and so on. So I had quite a bit of exposure. But exposure at BCG is completely, it takes it to several notches up. Life turned around completely for good. I would say that I joined as a quite a raw candidate when I had started my journey as an associate in BCG, and it kept polishing me, kept improving me on every step of the journey. And it has been an amazing experience so far. I got to work with in different regions. I started in India. I worked for a bit in Southeast Asia, then US, and now I am working mainly on Middle Eastern clients.
Right.
So I've worked on I think 20 or 25 cases so far on different clients,
Wow.
different types of problems. Has been an absolutely amazing experience so far, I would say.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it sounds like of course, like it sounds like a dream profile for anyone to get into, and working across different countries. I'm sure that gives a very, very good exposure in terms of learning new things also from new places by interacting with new set of people. So, what are like some of the learnings which you would have from these different places? And like you've traveled to a lot of countries as well, right? So, like maybe if you can share some experience in some of the past case, or maybe what you have learned over the past few years, that'll be helpful for people to know.
Perfect. So the learning could be in different dimensions. I maybe can start with the learning in consulting itself, right?
Yeah.
I've learned that there are three skills or three sets of skills that are super important. These skills are, one is the problem solving skills, having the aptitude to solve the problem, identify the problem first of all, breaking it down into smaller pieces, solving each of these pieces, and then putting it the entire jigsaw together in order to build the solution for the problem that is in hand. So one is the entire problem solving kind of skill set that is important. Second is very important to have is the people management skills. I've learned it a lot to deal with different types of people, be it your clients, be it your managers or partners, be it your team members, colleagues in general, and so on. So need to, I've realized over the course of my journey that a lot of success is also dependent on how well all of these people around you are managed. And it's not just creating a working relationship, but creating a real beyond work relationship with all these people, so that you are able to gel up and build a real camaraderie to solve the problems. And the third part for me, third part of learning has been the presence and communication. So I think it is very important to work on having the right set of presence and communicating very confidently, crisply, and very clearly. These have been three set of my learnings that helped me do well in the consulting domain, I would say.
Right. And do you think these skills can be learned over a period of time from some other courses or workshops, or this will only be learned over the job in few months or few years? Like, how do you approach that? If someone wants to learn those skills and then apply, how can they do?
We can do it in two ways. First to know that what skills are required, right? Knowing what does this skill mean, what do they need to do for this skill to be sharpened or polished, right? So it always help to have some workshops, some trainings, and so on, to know about these aspects कि अच्छा ये problem solving होता है. Presence and communication में इन तीन points का ध्यान रखना है. या फिर team management, time management के अंदर what are some tricks and tricks, what are some tips and tricks of the trade, right? These all can always be learned in a training kind of a setup, right? Or in a workshop or whatever. But then the important part is to put it in practice. So someone just learning it in the workshop and doing nothing doesn't really help. Learning a lot of it, know what is required to be done, and then start putting it in practice on different things that a person is doing can really help a person do well. Why not?
Yeah, makes sense. And like you mentioned that you worked on 20-25 cases so far in your career at BCG. Maybe if you can share some insights or some experience of how was it to work on a particular case, if it's publicly disclosed or if it's available, that'll be also helpful for people to understand what are the examples or what kind of cases usually come to a consultant.
Absolutely. I can talk in a, about a case in a sanitized manner. So I won't
Sure.
name any company or
Yeah.
what exactly we do, what this company is about and so on.
Sure.
So I'll talk about a project. This is with the cement company. This is one of the largest, one of the large cement companies in India. The project I did was almost 5-6 years back, so quite a dated project. The project was for optimization or reduction of the logistics cost for this cement company, right? It's a very strategic project. Given in cement company, almost 50-60% of the cost is made up of logistics cost, which includes handling, storage, depot handling, transportation, and so on. So if we are able to reduce logistics cost by say 5%, it directly means a 2 to 3% kind of net profit or the bottom line impact, right? So quite strategic. So this is a problem that is given. And we had to do it in over a course of 6 to 9 months, right? The company, it's a perfect example of a network problem that we do in our cost accounting, cost management in CA final, right? A cement company will typically have a lot of mines from which raw material, mainly limestone, would be coming. There would be a lot of factories. Say in a region, a cement company would typically have 8 to 10 factories. Then they would have 20, 25 to 30 depots. And from depots, there would be, the end outlets or the shops from which end consumer typically buys, which could be in the range of 200 to 300, right? I'm talking about only one region. So it's a perfect kind of a network problem. And if you are able to find the optimum network for this kind of a problem, you can reduce the cost, and cost reduction directly impacts, the profit, it impacts the shareholder value, and so on. So this is a problem given. Here we are. I was a consultant then, and we had a team of, I think, 6 associates and consultants with a project manager and partners that were involved, along with experts from around the world that were involved in it. And how we approached this problem, we started, this is where I'm talking about problem solving. So we started breaking this problem down, that let's break this entire logistics cost. The first element of cost is to take the limestone, clinker from mines to the factories. Then you will have all the processing at the factory. Then you will take it from factory to warehouses, from warehouses to depot. From depot, you will take it to the shops, and finally it is getting sold to the customers, right? And we started analyzing each and every step to see whether any cost savings can be done on that step. It could be through putting the volumes, merging the volumes together, negotiating better rates with the vendors, using the trucks that are, or the trailers that are used a lot more, right? So on the same route, if I can reduce the downtime, I will be able to use the same truck for say 25 times on a route in a month instead of 20 times if it is doing currently, and so on. So we finally came up with say 3 types of buckets for cost optimization. The first bucket is network optimization, right? We closed some depots, we opened some new depots in a manner that with least handling, we are able to take all the cement from the factory to the end consumer, right? Second, we did a lot of negotiations with the vendors, and we tried to break the rates of the vendors on different routes. Introducing new vendors sometimes, and sometimes just, negotiating with existing vendors to break the rate. And thirdly, we did is sweating the assets more, which means we worked together with the vendor. We told them कि आपका ट्रक अभी 25 चक्कर काटता है दिल्ली जयपुर रूट पे, आप इसकी जगह इसको 27 चक्कर, if you are able to take 27 turns on the route, you will be using the same asset more. So fixed cost जो है वो ज़्यादा routes पर, you would be allocating, and hence you can pass on some of the benefit. And we were actually able to reduce this cost by 5% at the end of the 9-month period for the company, which was a huge saving for the company.
So wow, this is like a very interesting case. So tell me one thing, isme, like for example, I have one question here. Now these companies which are there, they also have their strategy team, and they also have like their own in-house team, right? And they have been in the business since the last 15, 20, 30 years, depending on when they incorporated. So how is it like a consultant or an external party who's not even like the main expert in that industry is able to solve this, whereas they already have a set of in-house people who have been in this industry since the last few years? So how is this match? Like, why can't they do this on their own, or what exactly is the mindset here?
See, there are multiple reasons for it. First reason is sometimes what happens is there is just a legacy of doing things in a particular manner, and you sometimes need an external eye to look and critically evaluate each and every step कि अच्छा हम ये क्यों कर रहे हैं, ऐसा क्यों कर रहे हैं, ये प्रोसेस पर कुछ इम्प्रूवमेंट हो सकता है क्या, इस प्रोसेस पर कुछ इम्प्रूवमेंट हो सकता है क्या, एंड सो ऑन. सो समटाइम्स यू जस्ट रिक्वायर एन एक्सटर्नल आई of experts in order to critically evaluate each and every steps that are being done so that any optimization can be done. That is one. Second, what happens sometimes, a lot of companies operate in a manner which is quite inside looking, so they might not have a team, a strategy team, which looks externally on what is being done by a lot of other players around the world, and learnings from that around the world experience can be drawn. Because a company like BCG, our company would have done a lot of projects around the world. We can always see that what works and what does not work, and we can bring that expertise and experience and we can just apply it on the go. That is second. And third thing is, typically people have set processes and set jobs in the company, so maybe no one could sometimes have a role to really evaluate all of these steps to see whether cost optimization could be done in a new manner.
Yeah.
तो कोई नहीं, कभी कभी कोई नहीं देख रहा होता है. They are just used to doing it in a particular manner, and there it helps to get an external an external consultant to help do it for you.
Right. Yeah, I think this makes sense. Where like I think external consultant is also involved or interacts with a lot of various different companies. So I think they know what is working, what is not working in the industry. So probably they'll have a better view as compared to the company because of the inside looking approach that you mentioned. So,
and it almost always helps to bring kind of a digital solution or a tech solution to the problem at hand as well. So even for this company, we were able to create like a control tower. So almost always external consultant is also able to bring, a strategy consultant is able to create a comprehensive solution, right? So the solution is not sometimes just the business solution. It is a combination of a business, operations, technology and digital solution. So even for this cement company, say, we were also able to create like a digital control tower by which they can do a live tracking of each and every truck, each and every asset that they have, on their performance, on what are the critical bottlenecks and so on, which sometimes is not able to be sometimes getting to that solution internally or in-house is very difficult because it involves a combination of different types of solutions.
Yeah, right, makes sense. And as of now, like I think since you're the principal at BCG, I'm sure you would also interview a lot of potential candidates who would want to apply to BCG, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm involved in the recruitment process.
Right. So wanted to ask, what exactly would you look for in candidates while interviewing in terms of hard skills as well as soft skills? And what kind of questions do you ask, and how do you test whether the candidate is suitable for the job or not?
See, in principle, there are two parts of the process, right? The first part is the CV shortlisting, and the second part is, the interviews and seeing whether the candidate is the right fit or not. Okay, there could be different steps in it, but in principles, these are the two parts. On CV shortlisting, what we typically look for is an X factor in the candidate. So what is an X factor? First, the candidate should have done academically, he should have done quite well, right? That could be an X factor, that he's a all India ranker, or he has ranks at different levels, or he has an exceptional experience of working with different type of companies in his articleship if it is a CA candidate. Or it could be an X factor. See, academically, maybe the person had just qualified it in one go. He could have rank only at one of the levels out of the 3 levels, but he has exceptional extracurricular, like he might have played under 19 cricket for India, for example, right? Or he has placed represented India in international chess competitions or something like that. So there could be an extracurricular X factor that could be present in the individual. There could be a third kind of X factor. Maybe there are not a lot of ranks. There is no these kind of sports X factor, but the person has created an app which has whatever 500,000 kind of downloads, and it solves a particular type of problem, right? Or the person has started maybe he's running kind of an NGO that solves and helps a particular type of problem in the society, right? And he has done something really noteworthy in that direction. So the X factor is what we look for in the CV. It can come from any and every aspect of life, okay? And it helps you shortlist your CV. Once the CV is shortlisted, then comes the interview. In the interview, typically we look for the three skills that I mentioned in the sometime back in our interview, which is on problem solving. So whether a person has the understanding of the problem, whether he will be able to break the problem down into small parts, whether he will be able to come up with out of box ideas to solve these problems, and so on. So all the problem solving aspects. Second, we look at the presence and communication of the candidate, how confident he is as a communicator, yeah, whether he is able to crisply and clearly provide his thoughts in very simple words. That is very important. And the third thing that is looked as, how would he be on time, people management, and so on. We called it practicality of the person. How practical is he as he or she would be as a person, right? So practicality and effectiveness is something that is the third aspect really tested. So more or less, these are type of skills that are tested. There are two parts of the process, right? The CV shortlisting and interviews. Interviews are typically case interviews, which means you will be given as a candidate a real case kind of scenario, and the candidate has to walk through the different steps of how he would solve a case. So a case could be something simple as I spoke about. The candidate could be given, okay, you have been appointed by the CEO of a cement company to optimize the logistics cost. How would you go about it? And then we expect the candidate to go in a step-by-step manner to solve this problem. And that is where we evaluate all the three dimensions of this skill on problem solving, practicality, his or her presence and communication, and so on. That's how it typically works. It could be named differently across different companies and different consulting types, but the broad principles remain in this line.
Right. Can you give an example of an answer given by a good candidate versus a bad candidate?
So there is no good or bad answer, or there is sometimes not even a correct answer to a lot of these interviews.
I'm sure. I'm just asking,
So-
like, for example, one person who's selected and the one who's not selected, what would be the difference in their answers or difference in the structuring of problem is what I meant to ask.
So different, say if we take this cement company example itself, for a candidate, I would ideally want him to start breaking it down by, and I don't even want him or her to know about what the cement business is, what is the logistics cost made up of, and so on. I want him to think about it on a first principles basis. So the candidate can just start with breaking of the logistics cost to say it would be made up of these four items: the handling cost, storage cost, transportation cost. There could be a first mile and there could be a last mile, right? So the candidate would break down the logistics cost, and if I'm taking the interview, I will help the candidate at all the levels of this breaking down, whether it is the right breakup or not. Then the candidate can go about, who is selected will go about solving each of them one by one. So first tackling the first mile cost, then tackling and coming up with different levers to tackle the second mile cost, and then tackling the depot and handling cost. So one by one, approaching it in a one by one manner, each part of the problem. Then I would expect the candidate to come up with some interesting ideas on each of these aspects, right? One interesting idea could be, a candidate could come and tell, why don't we just combine first mile, last mile, everything? Why don't we do just in time and start supplying cement directly from factory to the customer, right? It reduces and almost makes logistics cost on handling and all negligible, though it creates another type of problem, which is, the time problem. How will you making sure that it reaches to customer on time? But at least there is an out of box idea that is coming, and then we can have discussion on this. Now this is a good candidate's approach.
Yeah.
A candidate, an unstructured approach, I would say, would be to start giving ideas out of nowhere, to start randomly throwing ideas like, why don't we go and negotiate on a particular route? Why don't we why don't we start creating our in-house logistics kind of an arm that takes care of the logistics? Or the candidate sometimes, I mean, the idea could be interesting, but it could be quite unstructured, right? That could be one thing. The second thing could be the candidate might not be able to express the views clearly. So there could be a lot of ideas and he's or she is not able to express it. Then it's a bit of a red flag. Or the third thing could be that the candidate is not able to understand the problem well. So while I'm talking about, say, logistics cost, and the person is talking about raw material cost or talking about something totally different without understanding the problem at hand. These are some examples of what could be a good structured answer look like versus what could be a unstructured approach to this problem look like. But again, there is no right or wrong answer. It's only the approach or the structure towards the answer which could be more structured, crisp, and in a nice manner versus the otherwise.
Right. What is like one of the weirdest or maybe one of the most unconventional cases you have asked to someone? Because I remember in fact, when I was also giving my interviews, by the way, I was shortlisted by BCG, but I couldn't get in the final rounds. And I was also asked a lot of these kind of questions which you are mentioning. But what is one unconventional case which you have asked to a candidate, and how was there any experience where the candidate did a very good job? Because I remember there were some questions like estimate the number of golf balls in estimate the number of golf balls in air in 1 second right now in India. Then there was one question like estimate the number of poha particles in a plate. A lot of guesstimates are also there, and weird cases are also there which are asked in the interviews. So, have you done like that sometime?
I do that. I was asked on my own interview. Okay. This is the most weird or a different kind of case, and I sometimes give it to candidates. Okay. And this case is that you have been approached by there is an election for a small society. There are 2 candidates, or maybe 3 candidates, or few candidates, okay, whatever. There are a few candidates, and you have to help one of the candidate win this election. How would you go about it? So this is an interesting one, right? And then I have received amazing answers on this question a number of times.
What was the best
answers, one? The best answer is I will buy all the other candidates. So there are people who would buy votes, there are people who would buy whatever, I will make these promises, I will work, I will do this, that. But I won't say the most ethical one. Anyways, ethics aside, it's a hypothetical situation. But the most interesting answer was that I would buy all the other candidates somehow, and I would be the only candidate they made.
Oh my god, this is very interesting. I think that would have been solved in 2 to 3 minutes in that case.
No, but then you always ask more questions about it, right? So it's a very interesting answer, but you can keep on adding to the problem or the scenario, whether it is possible or not, and keep adding to it.
Makes sense. No, very interesting. Also, if you can help us
also
understand.
On this, I typically I also add to this, what is if there are 3 candidates, what is the minimum percentage of votes that you require to win? And it should be 51%, right? But sometimes I also hear 33 and 34%, so if I have to ask this question, I ask is in a way kind of a stress kind of situation to make it interesting for candidates.
Right. No, in fact, I remember. So, one of my friends was giving an interview at IIM Ahmedabad. So, he was asked a question that how many powers of x would be there in the following equation. So, x minus a into x minus b into x minus c, blah, 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 and so on. And last is x minus z. So basically there are these 26 multiplications which are happening, and the question was x to the power of what would be the answer in this equation. And if you see, there's one number x minus x which is second last, and 0 multiplied by anything is 0, and that was the trick part which people usually forget in the stressful situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there are a lot of things get tested, right? So this is creating sort of a stress kind of situation sometimes to see how the candidate would react to this.
Correct. No, makes sense, absolutely. And if you can also help us understand in terms of how does a day in the life of a management consultant look like it'll be very helpful. Maybe you can tell us your day, how does it look, what all activities, what all work do you do, like a detailed routine right from morning to night.
I can try to do a weekly routine. That's easy. We anyways break down work in weeks, right? So a typical week for me would be, I would travel from, say, when I was in India, I can pick it up from then. I would travel from my base location, if it's Gurgaon, to what if I will go on a Monday morning to wherever my client typically is. If it is in Delhi itself, well and good, because I was based out of Gurgaon. So no travel, I can Monday morning just directly go to the client. But if the client is in Mumbai or Bangalore or somewhere else, or sometimes remote areas, I would travel Monday morning to reach the client site, right? Typically every morning starts with a catch up with team to see what the plan for the week is, what all needs to be solved, what are urgencies, what are some meetings we need to prepare for, and so on. Typically starts with the case team meetings, working, then replying all the mails, taking care of client requests and so on, doing a meeting with the client 1 or 2 times in the week, and preparing for those meetings to show updates, to discuss all the ideas, to see where we have reached in terms of the aspiration for the project. There are typically 1 or 2 case team meetings which involves the partners and managing directors and partners, where we provide an update to them on how are we approaching the problem. So we prepare for these CTMs. There are individual problem solving sessions. So typically a project is divided into modules. So I do individual, say as a project manager, I will do individual brainstorming sessions or discussions with each team member who is working on a particular module to help problem solve or brainstorm on how would we approach this problem. There is typically 1 or 2 client update meetings, the senior client update meetings every 1 or 2 weeks, which we call steering committees. In the steering committees, again, the progress of the project, key findings, etc. are discussed. So a lot of effort goes in preparing for these steering committees. And then regular client work, analyzing, solving the modules, actually iterating on those solutions and creating decks for different meetings. These are typical, breakdown of what a life as project manager, I would say, looks like. When I was an associate, it's slightly less complicated. In essence, it remains the same, but you are working only on one module. So in the morning, you will give update to a project manager on what is your plan for the week, what are the client meetings you have to do in this week, what are the experts that discussions that are having, what are some important analysis that will be done in the week. You actually work on all of these problems, do the client meetings yourself. A large part, I would say 30-40 or maybe 50% of part goes in sitting down and doing those actual analysis which is required to be done, preparing decks and presenting then as an associate or consultant in CTMs, in steercos, and in all the client meetings.
Right. And what about the personal life?
Personal life is great. So typically you see, post-COVID consulting has also changed. What has happened, I would say, is sort of a work-life integration, because a lot of times you could be working remote. So weekends are typically completely clean. Your Saturdays and Sundays, you can plan whatever you want to do. You are back at your base location. So even if you are traveling on a Monday, you typically return on a Thursday evening or a Friday evening. And your weekends, you would be at your base location with your family and friends, and they are completely clean. Okay. On a typical, I think since I've been in consulting, I work out 80-90% of days I get enough enough time to work out. I keep all my meals very clean, be it breakfast, lunch, dinner. I keep it very clean. I keep my sleeping time very clean, that okay, this is the time I need my 7 or 8 hours of sleep. I will do that, right? So it's so work life balance. So it depends on person to person. For me, it typically is that weekdays I see what is essential for me to do from my personal life point of view, and I don't compromise on it at all. So if it is, say, a birthday celebration for my parents, or some family function, I will make sure I create a block for it, even if it is on a weekday, and I go and attend it, right? And it's if it is planned in advance and well coordinated with the team, it almost always you are able to do that, right?
Yeah.
I also make sure that all my meals, sleeping, gymming, etc., whatever are essential, I always do that. And then weekends are completely clean. I can enjoy whatever, I can do whatever I want to do. Typically, for me, while I gave up professional cricket beyond under 15, under 16, but every weekend I definitely play one cricket match. So wherever I am, in Gurgaon or in Dubai these days, I always play one cricket match every weekend. A lot of weekdays, go in sometimes and planning for these weekend matches. It keeps me sane, it keeps me going. And then whatever is left is for time with my wife, with my parents, siblings, and friends.
Right. No, very nice. That's a very good routine which you have kept. And like wanted to understand more on the lines of myths as well. Like, could you demystify the myths of management consulting? What would be some of the myths according to you?
Myths. I don't know what the myths actually are about consulting. I've been in consulting 9 years, right? So I'm away from the myths of consulting. But myths, people tend to have myths more so who are outside of consulting. They have some myths about the profession. But what I have heard is, it's a lavish lifestyle. You would be living in 5-star hotels and enjoying life all the time.
That's the
traveling
reality,
all the
right?
time. That is one myth. So it is not a lavish lifestyle is a myth. Yes, you do that, but then at the end of the day, you have to work super hard on what you are doing. It's not all play. It's working very hard, and then a lot of play and a lot of party. So that is one myth that I have often heard candidates talking about, right? It would be an amazing lifestyle, chilling all the time, just and so on. That is one thing I have heard. Second myth I have heard is that there is no work-life balance, or you have to work 80-90 hours a day. These type of numbers and so on. You have to work on weekends. There is no life left and so on. See, I'm surviving for 9 years. It has been great. A lot of this is myth. Yeah, you have to work super hard, but then it's very difficult to work 90 hours a week every week and so on. So it's a tough life. You will have to work hard, but it's not that bad that your life would be over and so on. What are other myths? I don't know if of other myths that I have heard.
You fly in a business class.
Which is true, you fly in business class.
So that's not a myth. That's a reality.
That's not. But that
Then
is. It depends, right? It depends. It depends
on the level.
On the level, exactly. It depends on the level. But you do fly business class. That is a reality.
Right. Yeah, I think.
But then you also take at different levels. You also take more than 100, flights a year. So.
How many flights do you take in a year?
I think in last year I would have easily taken 100 flights.
Oh my God. Which is what? Almost one flight in 3 days.
One flight, yeah. So 2 flights in a week.
Yeah.
Last year I was traveling almost all the weeks, and even when I was, if I had a break, I was traveling for personal travel. So if I combine everything, I would have taken close to 100 flights, I think.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And just wanted to understand one thing on the management consulting aspect. Now, for example, a lot of people want to get into consulting, and I have heard that the attrition rate in this industry is quite high. Also, like I have a lot of my friends who have gone into consulting. They stay there for 2 years, and then they also decide to move on and get to some other field, maybe a VCP or entrepreneurship or an MBA. What are the exit opportunities for a person who's getting into management consulting, according to you?
There are yes, attrition rate is quite high. I don't know what the number exactly is, and it keeps changing a lot. But it is because there are a large number of exit opportunities that are available, right? It could be in any. It could be in any and every field. So one is the client itself that we are working with. They provide an excellent exit opportunities. The client is happy to have the same consultants who have worked on the projects, right? It could be in any industry, any field, because the consulting project could be in any industry, any field. So that is one. A lot of private equity, venture capital fund provides a very good exit opportunity for consultants, right? There are exits that happen in typical industries. So non-client industry roles, strategy roles is also where a lot of consultants move into. A lot of consultants move into startups, or they start on their own and build new startups. A lot of startups have been created by ex-consultants. So it opens up n number of opportunities once you have done consulting. Given it works your hardcore problem solving skills. It makes you fit for almost any type of strategic job beyond beyond the point.
Yeah, makes sense. I think those are like wonderful exit opportunities if you get into consulting. And just last piece of question was on the front of advice. What is one piece of advice you would like to give to anyone who wants to get into management consulting? Just one piece of advice.
One piece of advice would be to work on building the X factor in your life, not just for consulting but in general, right?
Okay.
Work and aspire to be absolutely amazing at least one thing that you really love, really enjoy. It could be becoming an amazing Instagrammer. If there is someone who comes with a 1-2 million followers on Instagram, creates amazing content and so on, it's an X factor to have, right? So that would be my one advice to future management consulting aspirants.
Right. Yeah, that's a brilliant piece of advice. Just actually one piece which I forgot to discuss. How difficult was it for you to take a switch from a tier 2 city like Jaipur to management consulting, and did you face any challenges in the initial start, and if yes, how did you tackle those challenges?
I don't think it was very difficult for me to do this way. It was challenging. Every day was a learning for me, right? I had spent I was traveling a lot even in my articleship. But in reality, when I joined, I was 21 years old. Very limited exposure to outside world and all the practical situations. So it was very each step for me was a learning. It was a bit challenging but not very difficult, but I learned a lot every day by working in the teams, by seeing other people who were coming from amazing diverse backgrounds. When I joined, I might have been all India rank 1 NCA, right? But when I joined BCG, I realized it's not a big deal, because I also have the Harvard rank 1, I also have the Stanford rank 1.
Wow.
And maybe all the IIM ranks 1s, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, whatever, all rank 1s are in BCG. So I realized that it's not a big deal. Okay, yeah. I need to just pull up my socks and keep working hard, keep learning from the brilliant team members that I have around me. Yeah. I learned by observing a lot from them, by taking a lot of guidance from all the team members. I was able, I still have amazing mentors within BCG. And they help me grow. They make this process easy for me, right? I also take inspiration, because you touched on this question, I also take inspiration on this from our captain cool, MS Dhoni. He's his story is a dream for any small town boy to come and to paint such amazing things on the canvas of the world, right? He comes
Yeah.
from city of Ranchi, very less exposure, and he's the only one who has won all the major trophies for India.
Yeah. Right. The way you have won trophies behind you, which we can see.
By the way, yeah, some of them are, all of them is not academic. Some of them are also for my cricket performance, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. Like, I mean, I'm sure like you're like a very good player when it comes to cricket. And the best part about you is that you're also taking time to play cricket every weekend, which I think is remarkable, to be honest. Because after a point in time, it's very difficult to stay in touch with a hobby. I have been failing to do it miserably. I think I should learn this from you.
Absolutely, it keeps me going. It creates
Yeah.
that kick, right? When I'm on the cricket field, whatever stress I have for the week, I don't care about it at all. All I care about is the ball or the bat, whatever I have in my
Right.
hand. So it's absolutely amazing.
Right, perfect. Awesome, Sanjay. I think I had an amazing time talking to you. It was a wonderful discussion and interaction. I hope I could do justice to your time, and thanks a lot for all your candid and amazing answers.
Thanks, Kushal. Awesome talking to you. I had a nice time too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.